We're our Health and Human Services Department, Environmental Health Services. We are the regulatory arm of the health department. We're the folks that you need to come to get a permit. We will regulate and we will inspect your businesses. So it's a little different than what you just heard. You had somebody here wanting to give you money, and we're the ones taking your money. So sorry about that. But anyway, we are a necessary evil. Our job is to provide public health service and protect the public health. That is our number one and pretty much our only goal, is to protect public health. And the way we do that is with oversight and inspection of food businesses to protect the consumers. So with that said, there's a lot of different types of food businesses in Austin, and but there are a limited number of types of permits that we issue. So we'll go into that first. Types of food permits. As you can see, that we have fixed establishments, your traditional restaurants, bars, cafeterias, and hospital. It could be a hospital cafeteria, it can be a daycare, it could be a convenience store. Anybody who sells food and beverage to the public, or even offers it for free of sale, free of charge, is required to get a permit. We have retail, which is basically your off-site consumption, like a grocery store. Mobile food vending, temporary events, lots of temporary events in Austin, and as well as then we have farmers markets and food products, which are exclusively wholesale. So if you make a product, bottle salsa, and you sell it at the farmers market, or you sell it retail in a store, in your own store, that's a retail permit. But if you wholesale that product exclusively, then you need a food products permit. It's a different set of regulations. You also need to be permitted by the state health department as well if you're a food manufacturer. So these permits, require a fee, of course. And here's some examples of, just anything you can think of that sells food. Hotels have their breakfasts and things like that. Basically, there's two ways to start. And you can either, create your own, for a fixed establishment. Now, the first part of this presentation, we'll talk about fixed locations. Not talking about mobile or temps, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But to open up a brick and mortar food establishment, you can either take over an existing one, or you can build one, or remodel one that's not a pre-existing food establishment. So you've got a food establishment out there that goes out of business, or you take it over, you buy it off the current owner. You're going to need to go through what's called a change of ownership inspection process and apply for the permit yourself. Understand that permits to operate a food enterprise do not transfer between ownership or location. It's for a specific owner at a specific location. So if you take over an establishment, somebody might tell you, well, there's a permit on the wall and it doesn't expire for 6 months. You can't operate under that permit. You do have to get your own permit in your own name. So you would come to us, fill out an application for a food enterprise permit, and also fill out an application for a change of ownership inspection. For a pre-existing location, it's a fairly simple process for us as far as we're concerned. It's an application and an inspection. And if you pass inspection, you get your permit. It's that simple. It can happen very quickly. It can happen within a week. You submit your application, your change of ownership inspection request. We'll schedule that request within 72 hours. Get out there, do the inspection, and if everything passes, your permit's going to be mailed to you. That's it. However, if it's you go through that change of ownership inspection and the establishment needs improvements in order to be permitted. Let's say the hand sink is broken, or it doesn't have the proper warewashing equipment for what you want to use, for what you want to do. Then you're going to have to install that or make those changes. And we give you a checklist of things to do to make those improvements and get your permit. And then the ball's back in your court. As soon as you get those things taken care of, call us back, come back out, re-inspect, get your permit. So it's kind of a give and take type thing. If it's new construction or a remodel that requires building permits, it gets pretty extensive. Now we have to deal with downtown City of Austin Development Services, right? So But let me go back and just regarding the change of ownership. It's required when the change occurs. There is a change of ownership inspection fee. Those fees are paid up at our Rutherford Lane campus location. Our offices are located at 1520 Rutherford Lane. It's at Cameron Road, just north of 183 on Cameron Road in Rutherford. It's a city building up there that's been taken over by the city. It's a previous high-tech building, something up there, I don't know. But it's a little bit complicated. You have to go in on the east side and check in at the security desk, and otherwise, unfortunately, people come up there all the time and they park in the wrong parking lot, and then they get mad by the time they get to our office. They're already mad because they had to walk around the building, and I really sympathize with that. We do have expedited and after-hours inspections available for an additional fee, and that's to cover overtime. But we don't generally bump people ahead of anybody else. That's why it's an after-hours fee. Just want to make sure everybody understands that when you pay that after-hours fee, it's for inspections that will occur after office hours. Because we don't want, if there's room in the schedule, we're going to get you in as soon as we possibly can. But if there's no room in the schedule, you don't get to jump in front of somebody else just by paying more money. Now, that change of ownership, as I said, may reveal non-compliant items that have to be corrected. And if that correction requires a building permit, then you're into another process. This is our change of ownership inspection form. And it may have changed slightly since then. This is a little bit of an older PowerPoint that I've revised, but I didn't change this slide. But primarily, it's just a checklist of the physical items. We're not checking your cook temperatures or your holding temperatures at this time. This is an empty kitchen, and we're checking the facility to make sure it has all the equipment and that equipment is working. The refrigerators do need to be up and running. The hot water needs to be hot, those sorts of things, so that we can check to see that the kitchen is ready for a permit. Again, you know, if you need a building permit, now you've got to go down to the One Texas Center. They call it the one-stop shop. This was a old city manager, Toby Futrell's creation, the one-stop shop. It's not necessarily all that one-stop, but I think it's a way of trying to put all of the development services in one location to be as convenient as possible. We have health plan reviewers at office at that location, so when you submit your plans for your remodel, they are submitted at that location for health department review. We will review kitchen, the ceilings, floors, walls, all the plumbing, things like that. But then once it passes our inspection or our plan review, it has to go back through the Development Service Department for all these other types of reviews as well. And the plan review process is pretty extensive. Unfortunately, it takes quite a while right now. There was a study done last year to try to provide more resources for the city to speed that process up. But right now, we're at, just for health department plan review alone, I think we're at about a 21-day turnaround on that. So 3 weeks to get your plans reviewed by our department before it goes to everybody else. So understand that you want to plan ahead. For any kind of building permit or business that you want to start, it's always a good idea to start with the Development Assistance Center there at the One Texas Center to make sure that you're in compliance with a lot of other regulations that the health department is not going to advise you on. So if you come to our office and talk to us about starting a food business, we'll talk to you about what the health department regulations require, but we're not going to talk to you about necessarily about what zoning requirements might have on it. If you want to build a bar and it's too close to an elementary school, you could invest a lot of money and then find out that that location is not going to work for you. So you want to be very careful about planning where your location is. Floor plans. We look at plans, our plan reviewers look at plans a lot, every day. They're down there looking at plans, and we can accept hand-drawn plans from folks. You don't have to hire an engineer. However, those plans do need to be very detailed. So if you don't feel like that's something you can do, then you want to make sure that you hire someone, even a registered sanitarian or an engineer or someone who can draw up the plans, someone who knows what they're doing, or even someone with the software that can put it together for you. Here's an example of a hand-drawn plan. And as you can see, it's a little hard for us to check plumbing on that. We can't really see much. So it may be good as a preliminary to look at, but there's going to be more detail required. Here's an example of more engineered plan that has, going to have an equipment list. It's got a key on it to show what each of these pieces of equipment are and so forth. And it will come with a plumbing layout, lighting layout, ceiling and ceiling materials, and all that sort of stuff. There is a plan review application for that, and there is a fee. 2 copies are required because the city keeps one for archive, and then they give you one back. The Health Department plan review will be conducted within 10 working days. That is our goal. We're not meeting our goal right now. And we have told the city about that. We are not up to our goal. Food enterprise plan review fees, there they are. You can see what they are. The remodel is based on square footage of the facility. Once your plans are approved, it has to go to the next step. Almost every fixed food establishment is going to be required to have a grease trap. And grease traps are regulated by the water utility. Industrial Waste Services is a division of the Austin Water Utility. They will tell you whether the existing grease trap is large enough or whether it has one that's up to code. And this can be probably one of your more expensive fixes if you have to change it out or do something different. The grease interceptor protects the water quality that goes to the water treatment plants. Go through the building permit process. Once that's issued, construction can begin. A lot of times construction begins before a building permit is issued. And unfortunately, then we go out and do an inspection and things have to be changed. So it's always a good idea to make sure your plans are approved, that you understand what's being constructed, and your contractor is working in the proper steps so that you don't spend extra money fixing something that your contractor did inappropriately. Items to be submitted prior to completion of construction. The application for a food enterprise permit. So once you're going through that building permit process, then you can, at the same time, then come to our office, submit your application for a food enterprise permit because that's going to be required. And then the certificate of occupancy inspection, also known as a CO inspection here, is the equivalent of the change of ownership inspection, but when you're going through this process. So it's the same form. It's exactly the same form, but it's to clear your building permit. So once your building permit is issued by the city, there are different folks that have to go through and inspect it. You'll get an electrical inspection, a mechanical inspection, plumbing, and so forth. Health department is one of those. So the health department will inspect your facility just like we did on the change of ownership, and when you pass it, we will clear that portion of your building permit. Check it off the list. Once you get all your checks, you get what's called a certificate of occupancy. It means you're allowed to occupy in the building. It can't be occupied until you get that C of O. So, again, once construction is complete, you go through this process, you get your CO inspection. When the CO inspection is complete, you get your permit from us to operate the business. We're typically the last person to do the inspection on your building permit. A food enterprise may only be operated when a clear CO is obtained from the building department and an operational permit is obtained from the health department. So you apply for your annual operating permit. Once the CO is cleared, you get your operating permit. That renews annually, and that pays for your inspections. We go out and inspect you a couple of times a year, and hopefully everything goes good. So, what if you don't want a fixed location? What if you want to start with a mobile vending unit? Pretty popular way to start in Austin these days. There are 2 types of units, restricted and unrestricted. The mobile vending units, basically, you don't have to go down to development services for a building permit or go through the plan review process. But what you do have to do is make sure that the vehicle is street legal. It needs to, pass all kinds of whatever transportation codes are out there that I really can't help you with, but as long as it gets a license plate, it's probably okay. It needs to have 2 inspections at our department, which is the health inspection and a fire inspection if you use propane or natural gas. If you don't use propane or natural gas, there's only the health inspection required. And this, again, is a physical inspection of the unit to make sure it has all the equipment that it needs. We inspect those units Tuesday and Thursday mornings. It's pretty busy. If you have a mobile vending unit you want to have inspected, you need to get there early. So the central prep facility requirements are new. Mobile vending units have always been required to use some type of central prep facility if they're prepping food in a kitchen and they're not doing it on the unit. So again, 2 types of units, restricted and unrestricted. A restricted unit is one where food is prepared off-site in a commercial kitchen or a central prep facility, and that packaged product is transported on the mobile vending unit and sold packaged. They're restricted to packaged product. An unrestricted unit is your typical kitchen on wheels, where the cooking occurs on the unit. So you can, you can purchase your raw product, your source product at an approved location like Costco or H-E-B or something, take it out to your unit, drive down the road, and you're cooking on the unit. And so the central prep facility requirements for that used to be, there was just a letter for an agreement to allow you to drop your wastewater off, your solid waste, things like that at a central location. It's important that you have that central prep facility because one of the most common problems that we have with mobile vending units is the illegal discharge of wastewater. So you want to make sure you have a place where you can take that wastewater and dispose of it properly. Potable water supply, electric hookups, and wastewater disposal are what you use your central prep facility for and what they're good for. Now, if it's now, as I said, there's some new rules in place that just came into effect in January. We're requiring central prep facilities to register with the City of Austin as a central prep facility. So if your kitchen services mobile vending units as a central prep facility, then it must be registered as such with us, in addition to your permit requirement. We are requiring that central prep facilities are registered starting in January, and starting April 1st, which is what, Friday, right? Friday is April 1st. Any mobile vendor who comes to our office next Tuesday is going to have a registered central prep facility in order to get a permit. Now, we've tried to advertise this. It's been on our website. We've sent out email blasts. We've had it posted in our location. I'm a little worried that Tuesday we're going to have mobile vendors coming in without that central prep facility that's registered with us, and we're going to be denying some permits, and that's unfortunate. But so the idea is that to get your mobile vending permit, you will need to show us that you have a registered central prep facility that you're operating out of. Mobile vending, again, a good way to get started, relatively inexpensive compared to building out a fixed establishment, but there are some challenges with that. The Texas heat is a challenge, okay? One of our biggest problems is it's 105 degrees outside and the mobile vending unit is not holding food cold. It happens every summer, all summer long. Temporary event permitting. A lot of events in Austin, if you want to operate, if you're a vendor and you want to have a booth at a temporary event, then this is what's required here. Apply again for a temporary permit at our location. Applications must be made 10 days prior to the event. If you come in less than 10 days, you'll have to pay extra. But it is a real challenge for our office to process applications for a 50-booth event downtown on Friday afternoon when the event is Saturday. So permits required for each booth. More than one booth requires an event organizer to make application, limits the number of events per year to 6, Any individual or organization is limited to 6 events per year, up to 14 consecutive days each, or 84 total days. So a temporary event is a temporary event. It's not a way to operate year-round as a food establishment. We have had some food establishments in the past that want to operate as a temporary on an ongoing basis, and it's no longer temporary. So, what happens is, from the health department's standpoint, is that risk increases. Because a temporary event is not required to have the same type of facilities as a mobile vendor or a fixed establishment. An operating food preparation in a temporary event environment has a higher risk of something going wrong. So if you're doing that all year long, running it as a business, you're posing a higher risk to the public. If your event is going to have road closures or it's a large event, we recommend you start downtown at the Austin Center for Events, which is in that One Texas building. And those are for big events, for road closures, marches, things like that. There's an office down there that will take your applications. Farmers market, real quick. Jeremy's telling me I'm running out of time. Farmers markets, again, we do an annual permit now on those. And they're divided into 3 classes, Class A, B, and C, based on risk, again, of how the food is being prepared and handled. Class A, packaged foods. Class B, sampling your products. Class C, full preparation. And there are some exemptions for certain classes of like egg sellers and things like that have some fee exemptions. And there's my contact information. I would just say that our department works very hard every day to provide the best customer service we can. I am from the food industry. I spent many, many years in the food industry myself. I'm very customer service oriented, and I want to provide the public with the best service that we can. But at the same time, we're regulators. So sometimes we're not telling you the things you want to hear, but hopefully we'll do it in a way that is educational and helps you get to where you need to be. We want to provide a service to the public and at the same time protect public health. And I'll take your questions.